Hi everyone, I'm back with another video from the Season 4 PTR for Diablo 4. This time I want to talk about my Poison Barrage Rogue build that I made. And it's actually super fun and really strong to play. The cool thing about this is it is not a combo point rogue. In the past we have been mainly forced into combo point playstyles on the rogue, at least for the higher end of content, because it simply has by far the best synergies. In Season 4 we are getting a few tweaks for operation and inner sight builds, but in general it's just really difficult to make a build that can defeat the highest end content and is not combo point based. But here's one of them and it looks and feels really amazing. The cool thing is, as you can see here, you can just fire like hundreds of arrows. Basically it feels like, you know, an insane avalanche of arrows that you're blasting into the monster packs like this. You can see enemies really effectively. You can dot them up with the poison imbuement, and you have other really cool effects like the death trap in this build. This is an exposure build, not a precision build for a range build. So there's also a bit of novelty here. And it turns out it does have pretty good damage output. It's not like the highest DPS you can do on the rogue, but it is definitely good enough to go all the way to tier 200, at least with the PTR scaling. And well, it will definitely be up there as one of the better rogue builds, I'm sure. So here are some of my test runs with this build in the pit. This is a 143, for example. I hadn't actually unlocked tier 200, but it was kind of a cakewalk. I was just kind of like breezing through those runs. I was actually also fairly tanky because first I have insane crowd controls in the setup from freeze and stun and daze from the smoke grenade. You can kind of just disable entire packs before you even engage them, and then you just kind of blast into them. And the cool part is you never let go of barrage, basically. So you don't have to really build resources, because later, at least in the game, when you have Tibalt's Will, you can get resources from that by pressing concealment. Every time I press concealment, I get like a full energy bar, basically. Every time I press death trap, I also fill up like most of the energy bar as well. And then there's a bunch of like general like energy regeneration or so that kind of like rounds it out. But as you can see here, whenever I press my cooldowns, they come back extremely fast because of the preparation and the exposure playstyle. So I can do the death trap and reset the death trap in like a second or two sometimes when I blast into a pack, because of the cooldown resets from exposure passive. And this allows me to then press all of the other buttons. Here you can see right now in action the death trap is coming back like literally in a second sometimes. So this is kind of like how that plays, and you have all of your skills all the time. It doesn't have that much mobility. You see there's no dash or shadow step on the bar, so I tried that, but I felt like the concealment was kind of the best option here, because it allowed me to, number one, get the resources, and number two, consistently trigger unsolvable so that I can get out of CCs, and also trigger Tibalt's Will. And also, for example, sometimes I would use it to engage packs, at least on a higher tiers here in the pit. Stuff can really hurt when you don't crowd control them. And like this, you can kind of conceal your way into a pack, kind of sneakily go in, and then throw the smoke grenade, disable the entire pack. And then you see like this here, everything gets frozen, everything gets stunned from all the other triggers that I have. And we can kind of just like crush everything. So this is how that plays. And the boss damage is also okay. So you just saw me take down Varshan with this build, which is a boss that requires relatively high single target damage to get through the barriers constantly. And even here, the pit bosses, they actually melt in like, I don't know, as little as like half a minute or so, even on the highest tiers. You see the poison ticks here. This guy is dotted up like crazy, and whenever I stagger the boss and I get all of my multipliers from Frigid Finesse, and I have Retribution Aspect, Noxious Eyes, and so on. There's a bunch of stuff that comes online when the enemies are crowd controlled. This guy just kind of melts, and you can run around and wait for him to die. So kind of funny build. And it's just like really cool to play. I'm really looking forward to trying this in Season 4 when it comes. So even though the patch is quite far away, I want to walk you through the setup. I actually have made a planner here. This is also linked on my Discord. So whenever you go to my Discord, I'll have all of my planners there. I have the Woody Builds channel here in case you're not aware. You can just join the Discord and always find my stuff here. And otherwise, I guess you'll also be seeing me play this on stream. But well, for now, I will be working on the planners, and we actually did get the default planner update recently with all of the temper mods and all that stuff, so we can actually do that now. Right now I have just like the kind of empty items here with the legendary affixes, which is what I've played here in the clips, but I still need to like min-max this a little bit and, you know, put exactly the right stats everywhere. But for now, the main combo in this build is the Bursting Venoms combo. That's like the typical poison setup. Bursting Venoms, try to stack a lot of attack speed, try to stack a lot of lucky hit. And like this, you can trigger these poison pools all the time so that you have perma poison imbuement. This is a dot build, and most of the damage comes from the poison imbuement here, which is kind of weird for a range build as well these days, but it works. So that is kind of cool. And on top of this, well, as you saw in the clips as well, we had a lot of attack speed. You can get a lot of it just from stats in Season 4. So unless they mega nerf attack speed, we're gonna just like by default have a lot of attack speed. And we also get stuff like the new high velocity aspect that gives you a barrage of 1 pierce and also even more attack speed. So you're gonna reach something like 100, 125, even maybe up to 150 or so % attack speed if you add in like another aspect, for example, like accelerating if you want. But you can get insane amounts of attack speed. And this 1 pierce on barrage actually really helps the playstyle as well, because it allows you to more easily deal with stuff like suppressors, champions, and just in general gives you like a lot more hits. And both of those hits, like the initial hit and then the pierced arrow, can then trigger ricochets, and then they hit even more targets, and you have actually a lot of lucky hit procs. So it's kind of easy to trigger Bursting Venoms here, which is usually a bit of a problem. And on top of this, you have the new temper mods that you can put on your rings and amulets that allow you to get extra charges for imbuements. So you saw here in the clip, I had like up to 7 charges on my poison imbuement. So even if I don't trigger it on like the first few shots, I still have more uses. And even if I get really unlucky and it doesn't trigger at all, I can then use Death Trap and just reset all of my cooldowns with the preparation. So there is actually like a really good combo here to kind of like have a fail safe in case nothing goes your way. And like this, you have, yeah, almost guaranteed poison imbuement all the time, basically. A bunch of the other legendary powers are mostly just like more damage or more defense. So you have an elements aspect. This is not really that great, but I just put it in there. I have retribution. This is like when you stun or knock down enemies. You can do that, for example, from the skill tree. You can knock down enemies when you daze them with trick attacks. Or you can also like now temper chance to stun on your items, like on your chest, for example. You can get that as a mod. So I just use that because most of the time stuff is crowd controlled in this build, and also whenever you crowd control a boss or stagger a boss, this way do most of the damage. And this also combines here with Noxious Eyes, where we deal extra damage to frozen enemies, so we get even crazier poison damage. And we also freeze with one of the mods here, so you can also temper this on your items. We'll see if that is getting nerfed. I might have to like tweak a few things here, but at least for now this worked really well on the PTR. So we had stun, freeze, also slow, for example, for the cheap shot board. There's like this damage reduction from slowed enemies. The Wiles node is very powerful for the R, for any rogue build. So as long as these crowd control mods are not getting completely obliterated in a patch, I think that you're gonna get a lot of it very easily just from your gear as a temper mod. And then you can activate all of these effects here, like Frigid Finesse, like the Wiles node, and so on. So there's actually a lot of stuff. As I noticed, actually Frigid Finesse was forgotten here. I need to put this there. I think I used it in the clips, but the planner needs a bit of tweaking. But yeah, anyway, we have branching volleys as the other barrage aspect. There's 2 of them now, so this is giving you like the more ricochets, more AoE basically. You have the pierce that synergize together. You always want to have both of these together. This can be found from the Codex of Power as well, from the Shadow Plunge dungeon here. So you can kind of get this online relatively easily as well, as long as you find this aspect and maybe the Bursting Venoms. So even while it's just leveling up, you can probably play a setup pretty close to this already from the start. And then we have, yeah, a lot of defense here actually. So I have, yeah, 3, let's say 3.5 defensive powers, because we have an Umbrus here on the neck. So this gives us the Dark Shrouds. Dark Shrouds is a very powerful tool for rogues in Season 4 for staying alive, for any range build and even melee builds that use Puncture, for example. So the Dark Shrouds are really helpful. I put an Undying in there for the healing. Not really required. You can get away without it and, for example, go something like Siphoning Strikes, but I kind of like the healing and we have really high attack speed. So that was nice. Juggernaut is going to go probably in every single build, unless like it's a massive nerf. It's just like so much armor. It's so efficient to have Juggernaut compared to just stacking armor on your gear, and you need a lot of armor. So we have that. And we have Tibbot's Will, which is kind of like half a defensive item as well, because of this damage reduction from close. This is a close range build. You're playing barrage, you usually want to shotgun into enemies, so we have this as well. So yeah, this is kind of the setup that I made here. And well, I explained the main combo here with the Death Trap. Death Trap can be reset through exposure. So that's also why we have the Poison Trap. Poison Trap can give us the 10% extra poison damage. So this buffs our poison imbuement. You reset both the Poison Trap and the Death Trap with the exposure. Every time you press Death Trap, you reset all of your skills. You have poison imbuement up all the time. Yeah, I have the Shadow Step here. I think I replaced that with the concealment in some of the clips, for example. So there were some tweaks that I made here. But in the grand scheme of things, it's basically just spam barrage with, you know, face rolling all of your cooldowns. So that's kind of how that goes. So that's the overview of the build. I will make a full guide for this, including a fully updated default planner and all that when the time comes, when we have the final patch notes. There might be some tweaks, and I'm definitely gonna just, you know, take some time now to really min-max this setup. But this is one of the builds I'm the most excited for in Season 4. It's also a ton of fun to play already on the PTR, and I can't wait to try this out. So this is something kind of like, you know, new and exciting for the rogues, in my opinion, that actually works really well. So let's see how this will be when the time comes. If you are also excited for this build, then you can already bookmark your planner here. So this is just the planner I'm going to be updating anyway. I'm not going to make like a new link or something. This is going to be the build, and you may see me like, you know, starting to add like, you know, more variants, starting to fill out these stat priorities and all that kind of stuff here, just to make sure that we have like a proper setup in the end. But yeah, for now, this is what I wanted to highlight here. And I'm going to have more stuff to show for the PTR as well. I played a lot more builds on the Rogue, on the other classes, and a few other kind of like more general topics that I want to cover. So stay tuned for more uploads on my side. And well, let's see what will come in the final patch notes as well. Hope you liked this video, and see you guys next time.